Morning, everybody. Dave Pope here from the Warwick bunker today. And this is the Wednesday 10 o'clock webinar on a Thursday at 11. And I am delighted to introduce today Simon and Chris from Chalkhill Blue, business growth experts who are going to go through 10 coronavirus busting tactics that you can do to get through these challenging times. Chris, Simon, you just want to say hello?
Hello, good morning, everybody.
And good morning, everybody, from me. I'm Chris.
Good. And I just wanted to say, you may have heard some sort of doing a bit of planning just now. We had a couple of technical issues, but when we get to, as you know, these are always recorded. So when we record it, we'll trim the little bit off the end. I don't want to see it on you've been framed or anything. So I'm going to be quiet for once in my life, and then Chris and Simon will take you through the presentation. If you can keep questions as ever to the end, we'll take a few questions at the end, but there will be the opportunity to take this a bit further afterwards. But over to you guys, if that's okay.
Of course. Good morning, everybody. I'm Simon. I've got my colleague here, Chris, and we are business coaches. We work with hundreds of different businesses across all sorts of wide sectors, and as you can imagine, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. But we're not here to talk about the crisis. We're not here to talk about the actual virus itself. What we are here to talk about is getting in the right mindset and getting yourself planned and prepared for coming out the back of it. Okay, because it will come, and it will come quite quickly when it does. So therefore, this morning is focused on what are the practical things that you can do to ensure that your business is working hard through this particular area, but also about getting your mind and your mindset in the right place. And that's key, because it's not just about your own mindset, but it's about the mindset of your teams, your suppliers, your customers, etc. And we're just going to delve a little bit into, well, what is going on in people's minds at the moment. And I think therefore, the better that we understand ourselves, the better that we can potentially help others that are around us. So with no further ado, let's crack on. So the first thing is think positive. Well, okay, what a glib and interesting thing to say in times like this, but it's really interesting. I've had many calls in the last few days with people who have got a positive and a negative mindset right now. And those that have got a positive mindset are doing some incredible things. So this is very much about the impact that a positive mindset has and how it impacts, therefore, the actions that you are going to take next. And as this morning is very much focused on the actions that you are going to take within your business, trying to have a positive mindset is going to be a key instrument in terms of making sure that you thrive through this process, as opposed to spiral into a negative mindset. So we're going to elaborate a little bit further. And what I wanted to do was just perhaps tell you psychologically what is happening in people's heads at the moment. Now, I don't pretend to be a psychologist, but I am fascinated by the impact of positive mindset on the business owners that I work with. 85% of the world doesn't like change. And yet right here at the moment, we're having change imposed upon us. It wasn't selected change, it's change that's been imposed upon us. And therefore, I thought I would bring up the Kubler-Ross and Bridges change curve. Now, along the bottom, effectively, we've got time, and up and down, effectively, we've got impact. So if you think about what first happened, so a lot of us went through okay, there's something happening over in China, probably won't affect us, or perhaps hopefully it doesn't affect us. And we're in this kind of like immediate shock, and then you kind of go a bit into denial. Well, perhaps it's not happening, or I hope it doesn't happen. And look, let me tell you, hope is not a strategy. Hope is not a plan. But then we go into this kind of area of denial, which is closely followed by anger. And then we're looking for somebody to blame. We're looking for somebody to have a pop out, etc. It wasn't me. It was somebody else. And ever so quickly, you can spiral potentially down into this sort of state of depression. Now, look what's happened just by having effectively the lockdown imposed upon us. The people that have gone through shock, denial, anger, depression, but then are very, very quickly starting to go, do you know what? I get this. I understand it. I understand the reasons that it's being done. And then we lose some of the anger, and we kind of go, okay, so I've got to accept this. If this is the new norm, and if this is the new reality, well, what am I going to do within it? And it's amazing how quickly we can bounce through this curve. Now, some people I meet go through this within less than 24 hours. Some people, they're still in it. They're still kind of a week in, 2 weeks in, and they're still sitting down the bottom and a bit of a woe is me. But it's only when we start to come out the other side, we get the acceptance, and then we start to do the moving on piece. And this morning is focused very much about what is it we've got to do to be able to move on. Things will bounce back, and when they do, we're going to be in a great place to be able to maximize the benefit of it. but we've got to have the right mindset in place. So I'm going to talk a bit about something called the point of power. And this really, I suppose, is about choice. And we all have a choice, and multiple times a day, etc., things are thrust upon us, and we have a choice as to which way we decide to play. And this is why I say it is absolutely a choice. I cannot control what happens to me, but I can control how I react to it. Now, there are some people at the moment that are living absolutely below this point of power. Without a shadow of a doubt, they're waking up each day and they're in the point of blame, excuses, and denial. It wasn't me, it was somebody else. It's nothing to do with me, etc. It's the government. That people aren't reacting quick enough. I'm self-employed. Where's my fee? Everybody kind of sitting in this area of blame, excuses, and denial. Now the challenge is that it's a perfectly natural thing to do. We've just seen what happens in terms of the change curve. But what we've got to do is realize when we are in this place ourselves. Realize the people that are around us that are playing below this point of power and saying, well, am I going to collude? Am I going to join in with this, or am I going to fight back? So then there are people who are absolutely living above the point of power. They're going, okay, so look, I've got to take some responsibility for this. I am a leader within my business. I'm a leader within my community. I am a leader within my team. And what therefore have I got to do to be able to take some control over this? I am ultimately accountable for what I decide to do next. And without a shadow of a doubt, I have to take ownership of this, because otherwise I could just collude and spiral down in the blame, excuses, and denial. So ask yourself the question about who you're hanging out with at the moment. Who are the people that are living above the point of power, and do you need to hang out with them more? I don't suggest that you walk away from this webinar and sack all your friends, but be really, really careful about those that you're listening to and the environments, etc., that you're feeding off of at the moment. There is a reason why it spells out, your bed and lie in it, or your oar and you're going to row it. This is all about how you take control and you direct. When we're sitting down the bottom, we are powerless, and we are sitting above the point of power, we are powerful. And never has it been more important and more prudent for us to be able to understand what is going on in our heads and the reflection of where we are deciding to hang out at the moment. Absolutely empower yourself. And it's fantastic to see so many people on this call this morning, and all those that are going to listen to it on the recordings afterwards, because what we decide to do next will be the most important thing that we ever do. So let's just delve into this a little bit further. Now, a lot of you will have heard the kind of the fight or flight sort of mentality, and it was a far off, distant thing that was put inside of our brains to keep us safe. And what we're seeing at the moment is that a lot of people are just going into flight and fear before you even think about flight or fight. But again, by understanding the curve and by understanding what's happening in our heads, then it makes it, okay, well, I understand it, and therefore I've got to be empathetic to it. And whether it's empathetic to yourself, or whether it's empathetic to your team members or your customers, and understanding where they are in this cycle becomes really important. Because there are some people that are in the bottom right-hand corner, absolutely paralyzed by fear. And fear ultimately is just a fear of the unknown. It's the what if. It's the I wonder if. And there's a lovely acronym for fear, which is false expectations appearing real. It's the stories that we are telling ourselves that become really key at the moment. And ultimately, we want you in the top right-hand corner. How do I face it? How do I face it head on? And what am I going to plan to do in order to make sure that I take action through this process? Now, a lot of these things are also the psychology that's used around performance within sport. And I love this performance curve. So we've got performance running up and down effectively on the left-hand side, and the amount of pressure that we can deal with running along the bottom. Now, look, that pressure sometimes is self-imposed, but at the moment it's coming from external purposes. So what we're looking to do within the curve is understand, okay, so where am I on this curve at the moment to get myself in my optimal performance zone? So sometimes you will need to have a little bit of additional pressure. Pressure can be good. Now, I'm seeing some incredible things happening with people at the moment where they are utilizing this pressure that's been put upon them to create action when they quite often would have just sat back. We cannot sit back anymore, and therefore the performance curve effectively is pushing up us into this top piece of the curve. Now, ultimately, it would be about, find a bit of emotion, get some real grit and determination, shout yourself, pump yourself up, and you look at what happens with sports people, how they add this additional pressure to themselves to get them in this optimal performance zone. But you also see people that get what they call the wobbles, the people that go too far, the people that crush under pressure and absolutely collapse. And that's because there's stuff on the right-hand side going on where they've got so much pressure, they actually need to take a step back. So again, understanding where we are each day and getting that little daily check-in about where am I? Do I need to add some pressure to pump myself up and get myself into the actions that are required? Or do I need to calm down, slow down, breathe, think, and just slow it all down a little bit to remove a little bit of the pressure that's coming at me? So on the left-hand side, we've got the fire. It's the fire in your belly, etc., that gets you into the optimal performance zone. And on the right-hand side, it's the ice, the bit that just calms you back down. And try to keep these two in check and measure to understand, how do I get myself in my optimal performance to take action? Now, we're very much in a situational pressure point at the moment, okay? Not something that we necessarily imposed upon ourselves, but it's been imposed upon us. And therefore, how we react again becomes critically important. So I'd just like you to grab a piece of paper or something you can write on a second and just draw this out for me. So we've got this kind of crosshair thing going on. At the top is your mental endurance. It's about your ability to perform when under mental pressure. And what we're going to do is we're going to grade ourselves on a 1 to 10 basis. The first thing I want you to do is, where are you in terms of your current mental endurance? And it's tough out there at the moment. I'm an optimist, not a pessimist, but I'm also a realist. So I understand that the challenges that you're going through at the moment are absolutely real. But at the same time, again, just putting ourselves in check and balance and understanding where we sit. On the right-hand side is our critical moment thinking. When put under significant pressure, how do we deal with critical moment decisions? The decisions that are thrown upon us at the moment where we have to make a decision quickly. How are we performing in this critical moment on a scale of 1 to 10? Then we get battle toughness. Okay, that is your ability to be able to get up day after day, etc., and move your way through this, even though it's not a situation that you're potentially enjoying. So it's your resilience, effectively, to this kind of this battle toughness that comes through. And then the left-hand side is, again, your ability to be able to risk take. Okay, so when confronted with a challenge like this at the moment, and we have to sometimes reinvent our businesses a little bit, think about really different types of approaches, come up with kind of the sales and marketing strategies that we might have not had to have considered in the past, your ability to be able to risk take in a calculated way by understanding the information that is put in front of you. So 4 key areas, effectively. And what you just start to do is you start to build a picture and say, well, where am I on this graph? And what you're going to end up with, effectively, is some sort of shape that might look potentially like this. And ultimately, what you're asking yourself is, okay, how can I work harder on myself, not just my business, to ensure that I'm working on all 4 of these potential areas at the same time? Because champions are made out of 10 out of 10s. 10 out of 10s in critical situations such as this, where you have mental endurance, critical moment thinking, battle toughness, as well as the ability to be able to take calculated risks, is what ultimately creates the all-rounded individual. And look, let's remember, just like diamonds, winners are formed out of massive amounts of pressure. So understanding, again, where you sit, what is it that you can work on, what do I need to do some research on to ensure that I am in my best possible mental state. And again, understanding effectively where you and your teams and your clients and your customers and the marketplaces at the moment allows you to understand, well, what kind of different conversations do I need to have to perhaps the ones I've had in the past? How do I need to reinvent my marketing to ensure that I'm taking account of where people might be on these curves? What used to work is not the same as what's going to work. And over the next 10 steps, we're hopefully going to give you some simple tips and ideas, etc., as to how to recreate yourself ready for that. So I wanted to spend a bit of time on mindset, because mindset is the biggest difference that you can have on yourself. You can do as much as you like, but in terms of where your head is at, in terms of who you need to be right now, will give you exponential activity. And the activity that we do at the moment is got to be significantly more than that we have had to do in the past. Okay, so what we're going to do is take you through the 10 steps. We're going to split between myself and Chris as we go through these, and I will start off with the first one. And the first one is about communicating positively. So look, when I talk about communicating positively, what I'm talking about is you as a leader, you as somebody that people look up to. How you communicate with your team at the moment is critical. They are sponges. and an awful lot of people are looking for direction. Remember, if 85% of the world don't like change, then there must be a significant number of people that you come into contact with that are fearing change right now. So keeping in contact with your teams, absolutely. And I don't mean just communicating a little bit. I'm talking about communicating really regularly, daily activity, touching in with your teams, speaking to your customers, or just as importantly, your lapsed customers, making sure that they know that you are here, making sure they know that you've not gone away, understanding effectively that you are planning for what is coming next. You cannot over communicate enough. Your wider networks, and by networks, we're also talking about the kind of the virtual networks, the networking, the social networks, etc., that are going to be wanting to hear from you and knowing that you've not gone away. Your suppliers and your stakeholders, what communication have you got with them? You know, where are things at? What is it that we're doing next? What are you planning for next? These are what our plans are. Start to share things with them so they understand what's going on. And ultimately, you have a huge part to play effectively in your wider community. It was interesting. I was chatting to a franchise the other day who do baby swimming classes. Now, that's a tricky one at the moment, given that all the swimming pools are actually closed. But we were going right back to, well, what is it this business really truly stands for? What's your why? What's your kind of your values? And ultimately, we started to consider that they're built around education, they're built around community, they're built around support, they're built around family. So why would they be any different just because the pools are closed? And they're starting to now come out with videos that are outside of the pool, videos that are just there to be able to support people. They have not gone away just because they can't sell what they previously sold. So understanding of what it is you can do for your community has never been more important. And then start to plan, but also jointly understand with your teams and with your suppliers and that joint communication. This is what we're planning to do. This is where we're going next. Sharing effectively where you are. And don't lose sight effectively of your vision, your goals. Just because your goals might have been to sell this much this year or to create that many holidays, etc., and you can't right now, don't change the goal. Change the strategy to be able to deliver it, but don't change the goal. Don't suddenly reduce your expectations. We've just got to go about this differently. The world will be coming out of this, and when it comes out of it, it needs you on board to be able to take it on to the next stage. So let's just understand where that is within the cycles. Now, for any of you that have been around a little bit, and I have, I've been a business coach now for getting on for 12 years. So this is my second big kind of economic downturn. Now, the interesting thing is that the last one, we didn't necessarily know that it was coming. There was an awful lot of denial for a long, long time before we knew that it was coming. This one happened in a heartbeat. It probably took about 2 weeks to come into play. Now, we were enjoying summer, bottom right-hand corner. We were enjoying summer. It's probably some of the best performance of the markets and affluence, etc., has ever had. And ordinarily, what would happen is as you go through a business cycle, it would have got to the point where it would have gone into the autumn, okay? A natural thing for it to do. And if you think about it from a farmer's perspective, summer's where you kind of, you make hay, etc. Autumn is when you kind of start to reap the harvest. As you go into the winter, that's when you kind of hunker down, you start to plan for everything, and you start to reseed, ready for the spring. Now, we've got a winter that came at us within a heartbeat, really, really quick, and we're quite deep in it at the moment. But we're already seeing signs of spring start to come through. And I think it will spring back faster than ever. And people will want and need you. I was talking to a sports clothing manufacturer just the other day. All grassroots sport has been stopped. But all of the teams, etc., cannot wait for it to be started up again. And they will have a massive opportunity, but they've got a plan for what that massive opportunity looks like. It will come back, and it will come back very quick, and it will bounce back very, very hard. And therefore, we've got to be ready and planned effectively for what spring is going to look like. Watch the world markets, see what's happening. You're seeing that certain sides of the country, the world, are starting to come back out of this already. See where the places that are going to reduce the travel restrictions are starting to come through, and we'll start to understand where the opportunities lie. Now, look, this is not a surprise. If you look back through the last 100 years of activity, somewhere between 5 and 12 years, so 7 and 10 on average, is what happens in terms of economic cycles. There will be another one in the future. Hopefully it won't come around this time with quite the same gusto that this one did, but it happens. And being prepared for it and seeing it happen, etc., and being resilient to it is what matters. Chris.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Simon. The third area that we want to talk to you about today is change. Simon's already spent a bit of time talking about how quick change was forced upon us by the current pandemic. You as business owners need to change equally quickly. It's all about adapting and getting ahead. And Simon also used the word leadership a few moments ago. It's imperative, if you're to come out of this, bounce back stronger, fitter and leaner than ever before, that you lead the change. We often use a model with other coaching clients, which I'll explain just very quickly for you. D stands for dissatisfaction. So right now, I imagine there's not one of you sat here particularly chuffed about the current situation, its impact on your business, on your customers, and so on and so forth. But as Simon said, it's really imperative that you have clarity around your vision for where you're going to take your business the other side of the current pandemic. And more importantly still, clarity around the first steps, the F, is absolutely critical. And so one of the things we're going to ask you to think about a little bit later are what are the 4 or 5 things you simply must do now in order to take the first steps to bring you back into the spring and ultimately reach your summer much, much quicker, the other side of this. And those 3 letters, the D, the V and the F, need to be stronger than the R, which right now stands for resistance. It's not my fault. It's someone else's fault. I'm blaming other things. I'm making excuses. I'm in denial, as Simon touched on before, all lead to the resistance about how I'm helpless to make a change. And actually what we're seeing lots already, and we've seen in past recessions, if I refer back to those, I'm slightly older than Simon. I've probably seen at least one other, if not 2 others, firsthand, is that the successful businesses are the ones that pivot and pivot quickly. So what can you do? What can you plan right now to do in terms of changing your products, your services, possibly even things like pricing, how you deliver your service, and indeed how you change maybe things around staffing? It's really curious. We're seeing lots of clients and lots of other businesses that for years have felt it's so important to have a physical office. All of a sudden, the change that's been forced upon them, suddenly they're going, do you know what, this virtual working is not half bad. All of a sudden, do I still need that office in the new world, the other side of the current challenges? Look, so for some businesses, it's going to be imperative that they change genuinely the whole business model. For others, it's going to be about tweaks. And sometimes those first steps don't need to be massive. They just need to be small incremental changes. But what I urge you to do is use this opportunity right now, because we've probably got more time on our hands than we've ever had before, to review the business model, to review what you stand for, and if necessary, break it apart and put it back together as if you were writing it for the first time. So change is absolutely imperative that we take control of that change and we lead the change as we come out of this. Simon.
So step 4 is also about being sensible. Okay, it is about cutting back where you can, and where therefore is the most kind of prudent and sensible place to be able to do it. And by cutting back, what we've got to be very, very careful about is that, look, we're cutting back to make sure that we've got cash. Cash is the new currency. It was always that cash is king. But cash right now is the absolute currency to be able to do something within your business. What are the things you can do to ensure that you've got cash within the business? Now, there are a number of schemes that have currently been set up by the government. We look forward to hearing something hopefully coming out tomorrow or stroke Monday for the self-employed as opposed to the employed, which I know a number of you guys are. And I'm sure that something's going to come. It's coming in other countries, and we seem to be following suit with everything that's happening. So I'm sure that as the bill goes through, we'll have something there for the self-employed as well. But cash is king, but we've got to be really, really careful that whilst we stop spending on the non-value added expenses, that we do not at the same time make sure that we're impacting those that are adding value to our business. Now, quite often you see when we get these kind of situations, is the first thing to go, for instance, might be marketing. It should be the last thing to go. Right? Those are things that are truly adding value to your business. It's going to be more important now than ever before. We talked about communication. that people are seeing you, that they are aware of you, that they don't disappear, so that when they are ready to spend, they know exactly where they're going to be spending. So can you renegotiate anything? Is there anything that you can put in place right now to ensure that you've got either cash, or you've got better terms, or you can get the business crisis loan, which is at 0%. So look, even if you get it and you pay it back afterwards, it's not going to cost you anything to have it, but it's going to allow you to have cash within your business. Cash within your business when you really need it the most. Now, so slow things down. So what are the things about that you can get a break on? What are the things you can get a kind of a payment holiday on? For those of you that have got offices, we're seeing all sorts of amazing deals being done just by asking. Some people are getting up to 60% off of their office fees, people taking mortgage payment holidays, all sorts of things, just to slow things down so you can stem the cash going out of the business. But keep marketing and selling. You know, even if it's a case of, I've got one of my clients who's made savings all over the place and he's put everything back into marketing. So it's about investing as opposed to spending, understanding what's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck, how you're going to remain absolutely prominent when people are ready to buy.
Thanks, Simon. Step 5, everybody, is all about extending credit. Sounds a little trite to reference a quote from a comedian, but actually I think Bob Hope was quite right in that banks typically lend money often when you don't really need it. Right now, the government has put quite a significant program of help in place for business owners. As Simon's reference, I think the help is imminent now for those of you that are not limited companies but are self-employed, and I expect that to be pretty comprehensive. I think that the steps the government have taken are logical in terms of the way they've worked their way down through the different sections of our business community. But by the end of this week, early part of next week, I think there's going to be a pretty comprehensive program of support. So for some of those of you who've already got overdrafts or loans right now, Simon's touched on it. Some of those you can renegotiate and some of those you can extend. And given that interest rates are so low, my recommendation to you all, and it's exactly what we've done with other clients, is look at these things quickly. The interest rates that are available today will probably not exist in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're already seeing major lenders like Funding Circle actually putting rates up. Now, they're slightly different to some of the high street banks in that they're peer-to-peer lending, and they're having to put up rates because some of their funders, private individuals, companies, etc., are withdrawing cash for their own purposes rather than leaving it there for borrowers like you and I. So take money whilst it exists. If you've got credit cards and the likes, possibly look to extend the limits on those funding lines as well. And we often have spent our time over the last couple of weeks talking to clients and other business owners about what they do in their business, but address your personal situation with the same rigor. So take advantage of mortgage holidays, take advantage of payment holidays on other leasing agreements, whether it be cars, vans, you name it. You know, you'll have family members that will have other liabilities. Make sure you get them structured to ride this out as quick as possible. There are going to be some great opportunities for those of you who've got finance to refinance. We've got numerous clients who have already renegotiated and refinanced existing arrangements, either to take payment holidays, as Simon's touched on already, or simply just to take advantage of lower interest rates. And I think it's imperative that you do this, as I said, quickly. One of the things we've put together for you guys today is a whole series of fact sheets, and one of them is around the financial options that are available, covering everything from borrowing all the way through to those of you that got properties, commercial properties that is, and you know, various options there to save money. So we'll make sure that not just travel, circulate those to you all afterwards as well. Thank you.
So step 6 is a bit of the elephant in the room, if I'm honest. It's the one that nobody really wants to do, but it's the one that, again, we've just got to be sensible with. If you have got team members and you can take the opportunity for doing the furlough, and let's be sensible about the furlough. I mean, that is supposed to be something where they are mothballed, so to speak. They're not actually supposed to be working for you. and therefore supposed to be at home and not doing anything. But take the opportunity, because when the spring comes, you're going to need them. So if you can reduce the impact of this, then fantastic. But if you really have to do something, then do it, and do it now. Don't wait. Okay, this is all about the speed at which you do it. If people can take some time off, great. But if you do have to do something with people, decide whether it's best to do it one at a time or by, therefore, attrition. By attrition, what I mean is that if somebody goes and you don't have to replace them, okay, then again, that's a great kind of cost-saving initiative. But sometimes you're just going to have to. It's an uncomfortable thing to do, but sometimes you just have to. You've got to think about the long term and what's the right thing to do effectively for you and your business, effectively for the long-term security. Pay cuts absolutely are an option. Yeah, having that conversation. We'll go right back to the communication piece of sitting down with your teams and saying, look, are we all going to take a bit of pain, or are some people going to have to make a big sacrifice here? So pay cuts can be a great option effectively where you've got all of your team in this together. If you've got any bonus programs, etc., I would suggest that you suspend them immediately. People are more understanding than ever right at this particular moment, and understanding that this is for the long term and it's for the security of their long-term future is absolutely key. And again, what we're going to do is we'll send out again a fact sheet which is around what are the things you can and can't do from an HR perspective in terms of managing your team. But look, it's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's one that has to sit effectively within the 10 steps as we sit here today. We'll make it a bit more upbeat from here on. Step 7, Chris.
Step 7 is something that I'm sure a number of you already do as part of your day-to-day, but I equally appreciate that some of you will have office facilities. The current lockdown has made it essential that, other than key workers, that we're working from a different environment, invariably home. And I'm sure many of you have already got the relevant technology in place, but just think about the change that's been forced upon us and think about what more can you do right now to make yourself even more effective working remotely. What technology do you need to enable that? I mean, technology is a great enabler. As I shared earlier, we've got lots of clients and we're seeing lots of other businesses that we don't currently work with who are all of a sudden seeing that technology actually can bring great efficiencies to their business. And as we've touched on before with the change opportunity here, put these things in place now. This session itself is a great example of using virtual technology to have meetings and to report on how we're all doing. Again, why would you go back to anything different if this works well for you? Put the effort into making it happen now. In addition to that, think about customer service. One of the things we'll touch on in a second perhaps is how you service your existing customers, or indeed your lapsed customers. Right now, I don't think you can over-service customers. I think keeping in touch with existing customers is probably the #1 priority. When we talk about marketing in a minute, we'll perhaps spend a bit more time on that. But use technology to really service those customers well. Simon talked right at the beginning about the importance of communication and the fact that we can't really ever over communicate. Same is true of your banking and your mail, email, etc. Make sure you put the technology in place to really keep on top of banking. If you're owed money, let's keep on top of that as well, using the remote communication tools that we've already touched on. I'm not going to touch any more on communication because I think I've done that already. None of us know how long this is going to last. Our sense right now is that we went into this change very quickly, and for those businesses that are well prepared, the exit will be equally rapid. Make sure you're ready. And again, we've put another fact sheet together with some further more detailed help and advice around areas like this, which again we'll circulate afterwards, so please look out for that. The next step is one that we've already touched on a little, which is all about marketing. Many people, as Simon mentioned earlier, are naturally minded to cut back on things like marketing. They see marketing as cost. And actually, as we all know only too well, it's really only an investment. So your marketing is going to need to change, but you certainly shouldn't be cutting back on it. And if anything, we're urging you, and as we are our clients, to not only keep marketing, but market harder. But be under no illusions, it's got to be different. The message has got to be different. I've mentioned here, make it compassionate. What do I mean by that? I think your marketing will resonate much, much better if you adopt what we often refer to as purpose-led marketing. Let people know that you're here to help. We see some great examples from many of you within the Not Just Travel network doing exactly that. And I've heard a number of stories from Dave and some other members within the team about how you're picking up business from people who never even booked a holiday with you yet, but their current provider has let them down. Be the go-to people. So as I say, increase your marketing, don't decrease it. For those of you that spend, on platforms such as magazines, online spend, etc., don't miss the opportunity to negotiate. Even Facebook has put a scheme in place to allow Facebook advertisers to benefit from reduced rates. Don't miss out on the opportunity. When you're doing your marketing, I think it's also important that you create new offers and new deals for people to come back to you, or indeed attract new people. But first and foremost, I would urge you to concentrate on existing or lapsed customers. They're the biggest wins, they're the quickest wins. And I would be all over those people, making sure they're okay and understanding how they're going to come out of this. One of the great ideas that I heard from one of your network, Sarah Watts, the other day, was creating a survey of bucket list destinations and vacations that people want to take when we come out of this. It's a great piece of content for social media. Find that excitement, tap into that emotional piece that you do so well as an industry. I think it's absolutely vital. But as with all marketing, make sure you know your numbers. What am I spending? What's the return on investment? Measure it accurately day in, day out. And if it's not working, stop and pivot. Find something else that is. And again, if you need help with that, then please reach out to us. We're happy to come up with some ideas to help you through all of this off the back of today's session. And wherever possible, try and get as much cash up front. Make sure you minimize your risk as best you can.
Some great points in there, Chris, and I thought it'd be just worth sharing with you perhaps a couple of ideas that other people are doing at the moment that are perhaps in similar kind of situations to yourself. So one of our clients, for instance, they make, manufacture and install kitchens. At the moment, that's really challenging. They can't get anybody to come into store to look at them. They can't get anybody to come into the design meetings, and they can't necessarily get into the people's properties to actually install them once they've purchased them. But what they have been really, really quick to do is get people pinning Pinterest boards, start building their dream kitchen, start sharing case studies and examples of other ones, etc. Getting people to vote on what style they like the most. Getting people to, they can still actually run virtual design meetings. So they've actually gone online and they're doing the design meetings still effectively, but from a distance. So all of these things about what is going to come after. I saw one of their posts about this morning. Are you sitting there staring at your tired and depressing kitchen and think that it's time for a change? I saw a sofa company the other day. Are you sitting on the sofa that's ridiculously uncomfortable? What's that going to be like for the next couple of months? There's all sorts of things that we can do, which is about looking forward, waiting for it to come after. We might not be able to sell right now, but we can sure as hell market right now. And back to the point about kind of the compassionate side of it. We might not be able to do the hard selling piece at the moment. I go back to the sports manufacturing company. Their marketing has moved very much towards they're a family-run business. They've been around for 75 years. They've always weathered the storm. They will be here for their amateurs that want to feel like professionals as soon as they are ready. They have UK manufacturing, so they'll be able to produce it quicker than anybody else can. They will be ready to go as soon as their teams are. So again, this understanding about the marketing shifts in terms of it being compassionate to understand that people are ready, therefore, to buy from them. thereafter. The worst thing in the world you can do right now is go quiet. I absolutely love that phrase at the top. For a business not to advertise is like winking at a girl in the dark. Absolutely beautiful. So repeat business, step number 9. And this is a really interesting one for me because when we work with businesses, we're quite often looking at their databases and we're trying to understand about, well, what is it? Who are the loyal people? Who are the people that come back time after time? Most businesses have got, their existing customers are by far their best customers. They regularly buy from them. They pay them on time. They're great loyal. They're raving fans. They talk about it. They self-promote. They refer. So your existing customers are absolutely fantastic, and they're the ones to look after right now. Communicating with your existing customers because you know that they're going to come back time and time again. I think sometimes we get a little bit over concerned with new leads as opposed to really working our data in our databases. So create deals just for them, knowing that they were a loyal customer, that they saw you through the hard times, that they were there for you, that they didn't pull out. Now, it certainly wasn't of their own making, that they will come back again. What are the things you can do to the loyal customer bases? Can you create something that is just for them? As somebody who's bought holidays from us for the last 10 years, we'd like to thank you with this. Can you put them in that VIP area, etc., that nobody else could be? Now is the time to really, really work on the loyalty. How you react through this is what will be remembered for years to come. And it's really interesting. I'm already seeing the kind of the backlash that's starting to come from certain businesses that are either profiteering, who have put their prices up, who have been a bit scrupulous or have dried up supply chains. And it's really interesting to see the people that are already getting this kind of this backlash of activity going on. People remember it for a long, long time. So work on loyalty. What are those critical non-essentials? What are the small things that you can do with your existing customers that you don't have to do, as in they're not critical, but they're essential? Okay, what are the things that you absolutely could do for somebody at the moment to keep them at all costs? These are the people that are going to be able to spring back with you really, really quickly. Finding new leads will be challenging potentially at the end of this, but your existing customers are going to want to come back and they want to come back quickly. So communicate again to them. Make sure that you really, really work your databases. This could be the perfect opportunity to really clean up your databases. Go back through all of those customers that you've had in the past, all those people that got really close to buying a holiday. Start talking to them. What are your plans? Where are you thinking of going? When you come out of this, what's your #1 destination? If you could go anywhere, where's it going to be? Repeat business from repeat customers, absolutely critical. And this is the key. This is the absolute key to all of this, is that nearly every business that we work with has either got an 80-20 or a 70-30 split. And by that, what I mean is that 80% of your business or your profitability is probably coming from only 20% of your database. Now, if you just stop and think about that for a minute, and if you did nothing else during this kind of quieter time, that you were to grade your clients, go back through your databases and really look at, well, who are that top 20% effectively that spend the most with us? Who are the ones that have been coming back year after year? Could I grade them A, B, C? Who are the awesome, amazing, spectacular clients, etc., that we just love to do business with? Who are the basic ones, etc.? They transact, but they're not really kind of bought in that much. And who are the ones that are just noise? They're a bit of a distraction. They ask you for the world, but don't always deliver. They're the C's, they're what I almost call can't deal withs. Now, those are the people, etc., that are becoming a bit of a distraction sometimes when we get busy. Go and invest your time in the people that matter the most, the 20%, and see what happens. You'll be amazed. Chris.
Thanks, Simon. Step 10, our last step, almost takes us back to where we began, and that's not by chance. We started by talking about the importance of having a positive mindset, and I think that's important that we finish there too. Everybody understands that life is very tough right now. You are undoubtedly one of the industries most drastically affected by current situation. In order to get through it, let me share some of the things that we're doing in our business and we're seeing lots of others do very, very successfully. First thing is, what are your daily rituals? What are the things you do to get yourself in the right frame of mind for what lies ahead each day? For some of you, that might be about 5 minutes of meditation. For some of you, it might be just a walk around the garden with a cup of coffee, planning out what needs to be done. For others of you, it might be getting on a video conference call with 3 or 4 friends or close associates within the industry to share what your priorities are for the day, and letting them hold you accountable as well as yourself. So I urge you to think about what it is you need to do. You know, the Prime Minister has talked about the importance of exercise. When do you need to take that each day? Are you doing the right things? Are you getting the right amount of sleep? Are you eating well? You know, work harder on yourself than perhaps you do on the business right now, because actually having that positive mindset will transform the operational output in your business for sure. As I said earlier, we've got probably more time on our hands right now than we've ever had in some industries. For those of you that have solved all of your clients' problems about getting back from destinations, you've had holidays cancelled and you've dealt with all of that, or the vast majority of it, why not use the time right now to learn what it is you need to learn to come out of this fitter, faster and leaner? What is it you need to learn in order to really grow as a person as well as a business? Focus on that. We touched on the fact that you can look at this one of 2 ways, depending on whether you're above or below that point of power. I urge you to see this as the opportunity, not the crisis. For those of us with that positive mindset, there are going to be amazing opportunities. You will have already seen all manner of creative solutions from businesses that have been wiped out in terms of their core business right now. And yet they're finding amazingly creative ways to help and serve the community, and often to make money too. What do you need to do? What do you need to change in order to realize the opportunity right now? I talked about our formula for change, that dissatisfaction times vision plus first steps being greater than the resistance. Break this down into small bite-sized chunks. Look for the small wins each day, and just keep a record of them as well. Congratulate yourself on all the things that you're doing well, and there'll be many, many things there. Really don't lose sight of that. Share them. Share them amongst your community, share them amongst your teams, share them amongst your colleagues within the Not Just Travel network. And again, don't worry if there isn't too much news on a particular day. Many of us have become obsessed with social media. There's all sorts of speculation and gossip there, interpretation. Frankly, 99% of it is wrong. It's not factually correct. We've seen even senior politicians told to take down posts simply for spreading half-truths. Okay, so don't worry if this is a slow news day. Often that's a good thing. There's lots of positive stuff going on here. Make sure you change what you can change. Sweat the things that you can control. Simon.
Thanks very much, Chris. Again, just to reinforce, no matter where your headset's at, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. You just got to choose what outcome effectively you're looking for. Now is the time for community. We're also work with Action Coach alongside Chalkhill Blue in terms of the way in which we deliver our business coaching. We're part and parcel, therefore, of a franchise in similar kind of numbers to yourselves. Use your communities. Share the good news stories. You can either talk things up or you can talk things down. So think about what you're communicating out there and think about what you're absorbing. Shut off the channels, etc., that aren't paying you the rewards that you would expect at the moment. The ones that are full of negativity, etc., ignore them. Really take a lot of time to understand where you need to be hanging out as an individual. Now, look, I've been to many, many workshops and seminars, etc., where you kind of go, okay, that was all very interesting, etc. I've written some notes and I've done nothing with it. So the key is what you do next. So what I would like you all to do is spend the next few minutes making a list of the 5 things that you need to take action on today. Some of them can wait, but what are the things that you need to do today? So straight after the end of this webinar, spend another 5 minutes just writing down what the 5 key things you need to do right now. We are going to send you a 4-week business plan, a cash flow forecast, and a budget template. We talked about the fact that cash is king. Absolutely. Understanding where we are in terms of our cash, what we need in terms of our cash, and therefore what we're going to budget for is key. Now, ordinarily, we work on 3-month plans, right? 90-day plans are an absolute staple of what we do, but things are moving very quickly. And what I'd like you to do is not get too worried about the next 3 months, but I want you to focus on what are the things that I need to do from today's seminar that is all focused around what the next 4 weeks need to look like. And I would suggest that a fair bit of that is going to be around finance, people, and marketing. So a 4-week business plan is going to get sent to you afterwards. Now, if you're kind of your head's still spinning and you don't know what to do, and you're thinking about your team or the size of your business, etc., and you're thinking, what do I need to do? Yeah, okay, there was some great interesting stuff in there, but what are the specifics for my business? Then if you send through an email to the address below, you can actually book a free one-to-one phone call with. I do apologise, that's Siri. What it is that we need to do in terms of a call with a coach, right? Get some clarity, take the emotion out of the conversation, and let's get the facts in the conversation. A great reason for talking to a coach is being able to cut through all of the distraction and the noise and understand what is my absolute priority right now. How do I take action rather than get caught up in emotion? So you're going to get these slides through afterwards. info@chalkhillblue.org will be the email address to send something through to if you would like to take advantage of having a session with one of our coaches. If you'd also like to follow through in terms of our social media, then Chalkhill Blue is the place to be watching in terms of the latest updates and information as far as LinkedIn is concerned. And you can follow us at Chalkhill Blue Limited in terms of Facebook. We're always putting the latest information as and when we know it up there about what is a ever-moving situation at the moment, but they'll be full of all sorts of interesting stuff in there. So just to summarize, and Chris, apologies, that's your slide, but just to finalize in terms of what the post-webinar toolkit is going to look like, the things that we're going to send you, Chris?
Yes, guys, so thank you again for participating. It's great to see so many of you on the session this morning. We're going to send you a copy of all the slides we've shared with you as part of this morning's session. I think you're going to be supplied also with a copy of the recording, which I think will benefit you in terms of listening back if you haven't managed to scribble enough notes. As Simon mentioned, we're going to send you a budgeting and cash flow tool, one of each. This monthly planner that Simon touched on, and we referenced some various fact sheets or help sheets throughout the presentation this morning, and we're going to send you all of those too. So hopefully you've got more than enough to help you through and guide you to putting an amazing plan to bounce back from this really quickly, quicker if possible than we even entered into this downturn. You've got amazing support from your network. Use it wisely, and I'm sure we'll all come out of this fitter and stronger. Thank you.
Excellent. That was brilliant. Thank you, Chris and Simon. I've listened intently to every single word, and I've been scribbling some things down myself, I must say. And there will be 5 ideas that I will be taking action on after today too. My favorite comment, I think I'm not going to add anything because I don't need to. I think Chris and Simon have been very comprehensive, some great ideas there. My favorite one obviously is going to be the winking at the girl in the dark, guys. No marketing. I think I'm going to remember that one. Do you want to take time for a couple of questions?
Very happy to.
Right, okay, let's see. And great to see so many people on, and obviously the numbers stayed pretty high there as well, which is great. Yeah, there's a bit of I'll give you some praise first, guys. Julian McDonald, this has been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Chris and Simon and NJT. Also from Mark, brilliant presentation, worth its weight in gold. How about that, eh? So some really good praise there. I think we're probably fine that, some of the questions may come up, but if you have any questions now, we've still got 111 people online. So if you have any questions, we've got a bit of time now to ask the guys while they're here. If not, we can do them afterwards. And as I said, the number's there. Get in touch. I think now is the time to really be thinking about how we're gonna, what we're gonna look like when we come through this. That's right. So here, not so much a question as a comment. Thanks, guys. So good. The power of keeping your head in the game and staying positive. That's from Trudy over in Northern Ireland. So yeah, I don't think we have any questions, guys. If I will after this, obviously I'll send them on to you. But I just, on behalf of everyone, just like to say thank you so much. It's great to hear a voice that isn't mine for a change. And so yeah, so obviously we'll catch up after this. And thank you so much to everybody. Oh, here we go. There's a question come in. And just big thanks. And that's from one of our coaches as well. So a couple of those comments were from a couple of our coaches in the field too. Okay, well, I'll end it there, everybody. Thank you so much. See you at 4 o'clock today. Chris and Simon, again, thank you so much, and take care. Stay safe.
Our absolute pleasure. Good luck, guys.
Thank you. Great.